The best way to describe it, remember when we used to have a Palm Pilot or BlackBerry and we used to pay for minutes back in the day? You can only sell a minute once. And that's why Steve Jobs launched the iPhone 1, because it went from a single transaction to an infinite string of transactions. Well, that bottle of water you just drank from, or this one, or a can of Coke is still a single transaction. But next leg is there'll be three layers people are bidding on. Layer one is the physical wrap. Layer two, the QR code. Layer three, the AR. And so now it takes food and beverage from a single transaction to a three minimum transactions per snack item to infinity. And so all of those layers will be biddable. It's a new type of cost per click system.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
One thing I do like to do is get on the EMA podcasts with folks who are involved in marketing and inventing new things. And so Josh Cliffords is with me. He's got a new platform called FreeWater. So Josh, what was the catalyst for you deciding that this was worthy of its being its own new business?
Well, number one, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. The catalyst was in 2015, my wife and I started a nonprofit to help refugees in Europe. And we helped more than 10,000 people from 26 countries, and 1 in 4 expressed they left their country because they didn't have water or food. And that took us down the global water crisis, global famine rabbit hole. And we created a dollar amount, which we believe is the number to end these things. And so we created free water and later free food as a way to finance that. The water's free because the packaging is the ad space. We're that crazy company. We've created many ways you could earn more than $1,000 from a can of water, a bag of potatoes. And just off the 10 cents minimum donation pledge, which we're going to go more than that when 10% of Americans drink one free water a day, we donate 1.25 billion annually. When 10% of Americans eat our first 100 free groceries, we donate 125 billion annually. And free food will cut USA food waste substantially. And so it's just a mission-driven project.
Cool. Well, I noticed the QR code on the package there, and that's one thing that's a little bit different from this latest generation of ad-supported products. Over the years, there have been a lot of sort of ad-supported products, some of which have sort of cause marketing implications, but most of which don't. I mean, sometimes it's like sponsored coat hangers at dry cleaners. I've seen that. I've seen sponsored coffee cups, some of which you don't get to the sponsor's message until you get to the bottom and you hold it up and you see something on the bottom there. I've seen, as well as having it on the outside, I've seen sponsored sleeves to, keep for coffee cup, so you don't burn your fingers on your hot coffee cup. I've seen sponsored napkins at events, but it's really only the latest generation that have started to have QR codes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was when you thought through, like, how should people interact with the brand and its sponsors? Was the resuscitation of the QR code like a big factor there? Meaning that pre-pandemic nobody was using them, and then they sort of came back as a result of menus in restaurants.
Yeah, well, number one, I was actually doing free electricity before free water, and no ads in that model. And my mom, before she passed away, got me to pivot to groceries because she said, no one is going to give you a power company to prove this. But a middle-class person could start with something simple like a beer or a water or a t-shirt or a napkin and go from there. And so, Toyota invented the QR code in the early to mid 90s. They've been using it in Asia for things that never made it to America. And so it's one thing to print anything you want on this new type of magazine, but with a QR code, you could obviously connect anything on the internet. And it operates as a great anchor for augmented reality to advertise beyond the packaging. We theoretically don't need the QR code in the future because the ad itself or the logo could be the QR code, but we want to train people to scan anyways. And so some of our advertisers like Netflix recently did not want a QR code. They're like, it makes the ad look ugly. But we always express that you should, for not just data and analytical purposes, but So you could connect anything on the internet, and that always it's just using your real estate responsibly.
Right, right. So how much of the business model is the ad-supported element versus uh, the sort of more typical cause marketing or corporate social responsibility or social impact model of like a Warby Parker or one of the other brands that sort of for every, one thing you buy, Bombas, whatever, uh, wherever every one thing you buy, a portion of it goes to, with a very specific amount that, one for one or a dollar
Mhm.
amount per purchase or whatever. So how does that end up breaking out?
So, in these early days, FreeWater is most similar. It's not apples and apples. We'll call it apples and bananas to direct mail, which still has one of the highest ROIs in the USA ad industry. And every bottle of FreeWater typically replaces 10 impressions of direct mail. And so it's much more cost effective than the direct mail, which is why it works. Advertisers typically just care about making money. And so the cause is the second element. It's an extra cool factor, which people seem to enjoy. But on our social media front, which gets us out into the world organically, the cause is what's important because people believe in a world with not just free water, but free food. And that if it donates to charity, it gets people excited. That pushes out our social media to the point where now we've got 1.5 million followers. And then that brings advertisers to our website to place ads. So they do go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned direct mail. I mean, I've got a direct mail division, and we actually put custom QR codes on every piece, which is very feasible in the direct mail category with variable digital printing, assuming you know how to do it, you do it right. But I'm imagining in your case, all the units have the same QR code, right? And then the person scans it in when they receive the bottle, and that's when they engage with both your brand and the advertiser brand. Is that sort of the use case scenario?
Yeah, so for example, this exact order, NBC got 10,000 bottles, 30,000, but 10,000 with the exact same artwork. All of these had the same QR code. Later on, as we build the next legs of our platform, it'll operate a little bit differently. But in these early days, it operates exactly how you express. I'll be looking for a new CEO so I could step down and wear the CTO hat. The best way to describe it, remember when we used to have a Palm Pilot or BlackBerry and we used to pay for minutes back in the day? You can only sell a minute once. And that's why Steve Jobs launched the iPhone 1 because it went from a single transaction to an infinite string of transactions. Well, that bottle of water you just drank from, or this one, or a can of Coke is still a single transaction. But next leg is there'll be three layers people are bidding on. Layer one is the physical wrap. Layer two, the QR code. Layer three, the AR. And so now it takes food and beverage from a single transaction to a three minimum transactions per snack item to infinity. And so all of those layers will be biddable. It's a new type of cost per click system.
Right, right. Well, putting myself in your future CEO's role, or maybe the CMO, I would certainly imagine that there are going to be some low-hanging fruit opportunities from a distribution perspective, because unlike direct mail, the delivery of a fairly heavy item such as a water bottle, but perhaps even more so if it's a metal can type water bottle, provides a little bit of a headwind. But you do have the events category, which includes stadiums where the stadium is a fixed location, and you also have situations like you know uh, out concerts that are sort of tend to move around, the Coachellas and Bonnaroos of the world, right? Where you could potentially have sponsors that would already think about potentially sponsoring water, but they might just take a regular water bottle and wrap it. But it sounds like in your case, you could do them one better and add a huge CSR layer to that. So it would seem that that's sort of low hanging fruit where you may be able to reach critical mass through either the show producers or the venues themselves.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what our business model has kind of been to date, B2B. Now we're about to launch this direct to consumer element. Um, Now the phenomenon is those are the lowest hanging fruit, but if you advertise for an event, a festival, even if you pushed it through a supermarket, but we're not welcome in there because they sell things, they always say no, you could only advertise to the community in a sense, at least on the physical artwork. With a QR code, you can individualize it, as you know. But when you go to direct to someone's house, or if they get it from the free vending machine in the future, now it could be targeted down to the individual, have individual paint job, individual artwork, individual augmented reality. And so we see that as a big differentiation factor in the future because no other company is built to do that, and that's what we're building ourselves out to be.
Great. So walk us through the economics of the, existing advertiser base. I think you mentioned Netflix and then I saw NBC on the other can. So how do the economics work from their perspective? I sort of understand your side, which is you have to produce the water and
Mhm.
get it to the consumer. But how does it work from their perspective? At what budget levels does it sort of make sense for an advertiser to be talking to you?
So a lot of the big brands have come through ad agencies, and last year we did a lot of testing and fidgeting with ad agencies to create the ultimate ad medium for them to have in their books. Um, and what they all said was, we want an ad medium that doesn't replace other ad mediums. The more of yours that we use, the more of our other mediums we sell. And so usually ad agencies get like their 33% or greater cut. And we try to work in 50% or greater on FreeWater. And so a lot of the big brands came from those ad agencies and their existing relationships. Now, depending on the use, because so right now 2% of the free waters have actually been targeted to the homeless. And that's people putting, here's the homeless shelter, here's the job training, because we only deal in targeted ads. It really depends on how they're going to use it. Now, when it comes to like a direct mail competitor, it actually is much cheaper, even including shipping the 24 pack to their house, than sending 10 pieces of direct mail, not in like a Val pack thing, but in its own entirety with a stamp. Because right now, 10 impressions is about $9.50. I look at it, I throw it away. I look at it, I throw it away. Look at it, throw it away. Impression, 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 impression. So in the future, when we're sending the individualized 24 pack to your house, um, we could actually, if we got the same price as the cheapest postcard with a stamp, we would get $240 per 24 pack. And so we only need about a third of that or to half of that to ship anywhere in the USA, including FedEx, which would include Alaska and Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And so it really just depends on how bad they want to reach out into those people and get those touch points. Um, and the average person has the free water in their possession for at least an hour, but some people have scanned the QR codes more than 2 years later. And it's just a little bit different. What we like to tell people is it's an ad medium that gives you a sense of reciprocity. People are happy when they get something for free. They're happy when it donates to charity. And we believe from that happiness is when they should also see your ad. So it's just a business to business use case. Sometimes it's not even advertising. We've been talking to some banks about hack prevention, where they're already paying for bottled water in the corporate bank. And since they're already paying for it, now it's going to say, first Friday of the month is Hawaiian T-shirt day. These are the core values of our bank. Do not do these things or our bank will get hacked. And so that isn't even marketing. That's more of a communication and HR tool. So it's just a case-to-case basis, if that makes sense.
Sure, sure. Well, you mentioned something interesting, which is you mentioned Valpak, which of course delivers multiple offers in the same envelope. And there are
Mhm.
other players in the postcard space, for example, that do something very local. And they of course blanket specific geographies, and some of them are national, like Valpak, but still let you buy very regionally. Others are regional. I think they use a I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a postcard sort of special offer pack that has franchises that work in different regions of the country. So you have to work with your local provider, but you can probably put a national deal in. And so that brings to mind the possibility that, if you couldn't find individual advertisers willing to be interested in a full 24 impressions, right? Because some advertisers are like, listen, once I get above 10 impressions, they either got my message or they didn't, right?
Exactly.
And so they're like, I'm pretty much done. There's the possibility of either sharing a can with multiple advertisers, which you sort of alluded to even in your example of the bank putting multiple messages around the package, or you could potentially mix and match, within the 24 pack, right? Or you could even go the full Val pack route and have people start to engage with more advertisers once they scan. Have you started to sort of model those scenarios out? If you can't always get, if you don't feel like you can reach critical mass with an advertiser sort of willing to pay for an entire case?
Yes, so we've had many brands sharing the real estate, but in the early days, it's easiest if they come to us and they say, hey, me and my buddy's business are non-competing and we want to
Right.
subsidize or split the real estate accordingly. Um, it's always tricky when you first launch a new medium because to hit that critical mass where someone could just say, hey, I just want 1/3 of the real estate on 35 bottles,
Yeah,
we've got a long way to go.
yeah.
Um, but we have been reaching out to direct mail companies just to let them know that we believe that this is something that they would want to partner with. And it's a good way to bundle even the direct mail because if you've ever ordered beverages on Amazon, you've got the normal 24 pack case, and that has to go into a protective box. And so there's got to be that protective box layer. And we also foresee when partnering with direct mail companies, not only are there clients on these cans, but when you open that first protective box, then is the direct mail outside of the envelope, no stamps needed in there. And we also believe it would be a happier way to absorb the direct mail when it's like, oh man, they gave me a free 24 pack. I've got the ads here, but now I've got like KFC's best coupon book right here. Now the direct mail company would make a fee for perpetuating this with us, but then they also save a lot of money by not having the envelope and the stamp on 24 other ads in there. So there's a lot of ways that it could be
Right.
bundled, if that makes sense.
Cool,
The
cool.
possibilities are endless.
That's super exciting. So where are from a venue perspective, are there any, because you mentioned your sort of initial foray was into the lower hanging fruit of the venues. Have you if people were to go to some venues, would they run into your free water there? Are there any sports venues or concert venues that you would typically be able to sort of have people engage with the packaging?
So we have, but none of them have been like, hey, we're only going to provide free water from here on out. We're in the
Right.
middle of our first nationwide deal with an apparel brand, and they're already giving away cans of liquid death when you go into the shop. Now, to keep them in the shop, what we explain to them is you're paying the same amount of money that you're giving away billboards with no sign. And so if they're coming into your apparel shop and you're already giving them free beverages, there should be free beverage with your discount right there.
Hmm.
And so we'll have more and more things like that. But the amazing thing with the mixed 24 packs when we started hitting critical mass is the minimum that we used to fulfill and still do is a pallet. So that's 70 24 packs or 1,680 bottles. But with the advent of direct to consumer mixed 24 packs, now the new minimum order quantity is 70 bottles. And then when we open up our factory, it's a fraction of a label on one bottle one day. And so the threshold to market with us is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as we reach greater and greater scales. Our cost is lowering, which means we could lower the ad medium costs and also get, um, you know, so it's a really exciting time for us. We're about to launch our free 24 pack beta, and that will be the first time in history anyone's ever sent out cases like this. Just by having 24 different labels in the box, it's by default the most advanced 24 pack in the world. But then it's like now you could connect anything on the internet with the QR codes. And it's a baby step, Kevin, just because as you know, I guess the question to you is when did the direct mail industry start? Is it 60 years old now? 70?
I don't know offhand because I wasn't there. I am old, but
Yeah.
not that old.
No, no,
I
I
mean,
know
the
that.
direct mail business has been around a fairly long time. Obviously, it's undergoing a bit of a renaissance now with the advent of technology, both from a direct
Agreed.
mail tracking perspective of tracking delivery, but also of being able to track or add hyper personalization to it.
Hmm.
Which is sort of ironic because the level of targeting online got extremely granular. And then, as a result of privacy regulations and changes in the cookie infrastructure and IDFA and mobile phones, some of the granularity went away online, and direct mail still has that granularity both at the household level and at the individual level. Now, in the case of the household, that's great because, probably 24 packs are going to get shared by an entire household. So, the
Yeah.
ability for advertisers to potentially cherry pick neighborhoods or potentially cherry pick individual households is pretty interesting because the amount of psychographic and demographic information that's available in the direct mail industry is quite significant, right? If you
Yeah.
want to get people who just moved into their houses, or you want to get people with, at least 3 kids or whatever you want.
Yeah, no, the only reason why I ask is just because since we're the new ad medium on the block, even Facebook's 25 years old now, essentially, or getting close to it. And so direct mail's been around for about 50. And so it's really coming into its own. And Jeff Bezos used books to get to your house. I don't think he told his original investors they were going to be a bookstore forever. He said, hey, we'll start with books. And then so the significance of us to get the free water to your house in a beta launch soon, and then to start initially shipping it out like direct mail, meaning you don't order the free water, it just lands, is a big significant for us. And then the next milestone would be we cross that XY axis where we've got enough investors and ad agencies, and then anybody can order the free water. And then it would come in 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, and now we could add soda. And then 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, and then beer, and then groceries. And so we're about three milestones away from being able to really open it out. And I believe that you're 1,000,000% right. Direct mail is going through a renaissance right now with the advent of the new tech. And then I believe that the direct mail industry will soar to 10x the size that it was at its peak, as we involve groceries too.
Right, right. Well, that's super exciting. If folks listening or watching have an interest in reaching out to you, is LinkedIn the best way to find you if they want as an agency or as a brand to, see what it would whether or not they're a fit for you?
LinkedIn always works great, and then otherwise just fill out the if there's an agency, the advertising form on our website and leave a detailed message. But if they would like to just reach out to me directly, LinkedIn is always an amazing spot.
Great, great. Well, so that's super exciting. I look forward to continuing to watch your progress as you roll out, and there's going to be certainly some tipping points as you reach critical mass where it gets even more exciting.
Definitely. And thanks for having me again today. It really means a lot.
My pleasure.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.